Thanks a lot, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen, very grateful for all our partners for joining us here today. And 3 years have been passed since we adopted the Madrid Guiding Principles. One of the major developments since the Madrid meeting has, of course, been the changing nature of the threat posed by foreign terrorist fighters and by ISIL. ISIL has lost most of its former territory in Syria and Iraq, and the flow of foreign terrorist fighters to the region has been largely halted. ISIL's financial reserves have been depleted, and its organizational and operational capacities weakened. The lethality of terrorist attacks has declined, and the number of deaths from terrorism continues to decrease, particularly in Syria and Iraq. However, the terrorist threat to many states has by no means diminished, and terrorism's impact remains global, and its nature continues to evolve. ISIL has shifted its focus away from the Middle East towards other regions, including North Africa and Southeast Asia. Although thus far not as intense as predicted, the flow of foreign terrorist fighters back to their home countries or to other countries is expected to increase in the coming years. Lethality of terrorist attacks has fallen, but the number of unsuccessful attacks has risen. ISIL affiliates and emerging small cells pose a growing threat, and some of those groups have established global networks. We must continue to work together to effectively address these challenges and to stay ahead of the terrorists. In an effort to assist member states in their review of the Madrid Guiding Principles, CTED has held a number of events for member states, regional, international organizations, civil society, academia, think tanks, and other stakeholders. We have also analyzed information gathered through our assessment visit on behalf of the Counter-Terrorism Committee. And in this regard, I wish to note 3 areas in particular in which I believe we can all redouble our efforts. Firstly, there is a need for member states to continue to strengthen their sharing of information to identify, investigate, and prosecute terrorist groups. Security Council has encouraged states to make full use of the many available tools, including biometric data, advanced passenger information, and passenger name records. Those efforts will require cooperation with non-traditional actors, including the private sector. And all such measures must, of course, be implemented in a proportionate and human rights compliant manner and in accordance with the Security Council resolutions and the international standards. The implementation of risk assessments and appropriate targeting measures by law enforcement agencies and border control authorities is particularly essential to the identification, detection, and interception of suspected foreign terrorist fighters and other high-risk passengers. We are, of course, aware that such measures can be extremely resource-intensive and may be also present challenges linked to the protection and promotion of human rights. Advanced border control technologies provide a crucial defense against transnational terrorism, in particular the foreign terrorist fighter's threat. But few states possess the required resources, capacity, expertise, and equipment to effectively implement such technologies. And many states are also struggling to ensure that their legal and regulatory frameworks, safeguards, oversight mechanisms, and institutional structures keep pace with those advancements and ensure full compliance with their international legal obligations. Secondly, there is a strong need to develop comprehensive and tailored prosecution, rehabilitation, and integration strategies for suspected terrorists, including foreign terrorist fighters and their families. The collection of admissible evidence, whether online or from the battlefield, presents huge challenges, and preventing radicalization to violence in prisons is a further challenge. Member States need more information about existing practices in order to develop and implement strategies that meet their particular context and needs. The continued evolution of the foreign terrorist fighters phenomenon requires that states develop tailored and appropriate approaches to dealing with foreign terrorist fighter family members, including women and children. And those women and children may have played many different roles. Reintegration efforts are often hampered by the effects of trauma and stigmatization, as well as by the overwhelming demands placed upon welfare and child protection services and upon criminal justice systems. And member states should continue to support one another in identifying and implementing appropriate responses to these complex situations. Thirdly, there is need for member states to continue to identify effective ways to prevent and counter incitement and recruitment to terrorism and to address the drivers of terrorism, such as conflict, poverty, illiteracy, social injustice, poor governance, and human rights abuses. In doing so, they should continue to seek alliances with various stakeholders and to develop long-term sustainable policies. Preventive approaches, including the development of counter-narratives, risk assessments, and intervention programs, can help prevent individuals from becoming involved in terrorism. Because many existing strategies have only recently been developed and introduced, it's difficult to assess their effectiveness, efficiency, and impact. States should therefore continue to strengthen their exchange of information in order to determine the most effective approaches. CTED remains determined to do everything in its power to assist member states to address these evolving and significant challenges, working together with its implementing partners, with all partners, with the UN family, with OCT in the context of the global context, to mention some of them. And today's review of the Madrid Guiding Principles is a critical step in that process, and I look forward to all our discussions.